And I'll start applying some vibrating colors. This color is just simply sky base color with Diox and purple, Mars black, and a little cadmium yellow medium. After I've blocked in the larger areas with the color, I'm now going to spray in a softer edge with my Posh AB Turbo. Here I'm starting to soften the edge between the two colors. As you can see, I'm using my dabbing process. The brush doesn't have a lot of paint on it, just enough to be able to apply to the edge and then soften it off by dry brushing and softly dragging the paint between the two values. I really do think the things that make clouds clouds is those little wisps that come off them. Well, this is one of those. As you can see, I'll block in the thicker, more dense areas almost solid, and then I'll use my dry brush pulp technique to pull off and soften the edges of the cloud. Okay, so I start working all areas of the clouded area. Same thing as the other side, blocking the dense areas with a thicker paint and then using the dry brush to soften off the edge. Softening the edges in clouds is really important. Clouds can be described as billowy, and that softer edges and those little wisps coming off is what really creates that billowy effect. Remember to work those edges. Try not to get any hard lines with the clouds. You want nice soft edges. Now if you go a little bit too hard, you can always use the airbrush to go back in and soften edges. Here you can see I really want to soften that hard edge between the blue.
Now if you don't like an airbrush, you don't need one. I use one to save time. You could have achieved the same effect with washes and glazes. So don't go spending hundreds of dollars on an airbrush if you're not comfortable with one. Just use traditional washes and glazes.
Here I'm working in some more of the basing. This is with that pink sky base color. As you can see, I really like to work the edges and make them soft. A nice easy transition between one color and the next. Again, here I'm using the airbrush to soften off some of the edges and build up the color.
You don't need an airbrush.
I continue to build up the shape and form in the clouds, doing that dry brush, making all these nice beautiful little wisps. Breaking up the edge and making it random is so imperative to really getting the character of clouds. Those little wisps and the billowiness, again, is exactly what makes clouds that cloud texture. Here I'm adding a mixture of the sky base color with some cadmium red or yellow medium and titanium white. This is just to make a glow around the edge of the mountain, and we're also going to work in some of this mist over the mountain using the airbrush. When you're using the airbrush here, you want to use a back and forth motion. Don't ever let the airbrush stop in one place, or you'll get a build-up that you really don't want. Here I'm starting to paint in a very predominant wisp in the clouds. As you can see, just like the other ones, I started by going very thick and opaque around the dense part of the cloud, and then of course use the dry brush technique around the edges to fan off the edges. Here I continue to build up the structure of all these little wisps. Remember, it's just like fur and feather to keep the direction of the wisps in mind and try to paint in that direction. And remember, dab, 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 dab. This is actually just pure titanium white, and what I'm going to do is dab in some of the highlights to give the cloud a bit of volume. When you're using pure titanium white, I usually like to dab after. Pure titanium straight out of the tube can be very harsh depending on what value it's going against. Here I'm creating another wisp of cloud that's unveiling the mountain. These little extras, this really wasn't in my reference, but I decided to add it in because it just added a little more of a mystique, and it helped to pull the painting together with repetition of shapes and volumes. Up here I'm actually using the sky base color, well actually it's more titanium white tinted with the sky base color, and again just more wisps, more over the mountain wisps, and trying to pull backgrounds and foregrounds and pull them together using overlapping shapes.